What's up, bud? It's Rob. This is Apparel Success, and this video here is a long time coming, okay? I've been asked tons of times, how are you creating those custom Instagram stories that I see on your clothing brand's Instagram account? And in this video here, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm creating these stories so that you can apply it to your own clothing brand's Instagram account. We're literally going to hop onto my computer. I'm going to show you exactly how to create them. And everything that I show you here is best applied to things like free shipping days or big sales that you have coming up so that you can just stockpile these Instagram stories and then just unleash them on big sales, okay? It'll really separate your clothing brand from all of the others because most people just don't know how to do this, and it'll just spice up your stories like crazy, okay? Now, this video here is a preview video for the launch of my new online course, Instagram Marketing for Clothing Brands 2.0, which is completely updated and remastered to be the most powerful content that exists on the internet for clothing brand owners looking to market their clothing brand in 2019, okay? So stay tuned for the launch of this course. It'll be released in early March sometime. Otherwise, let's jump in here. I wanna show you how to do this. Let's do it. All right, so the software that I'm in right now that I'm gonna be showing you how to create these custom Instagram stories in is Adobe Premiere. Now, everything that I show you here, you can use whichever video editing software you have. I obviously can't show you how to do this on every single video editing software that exists. So I'm gonna show you how to do it using this software here, but everything that I show you, you can apply to whichever video editing software you use. I'm just gonna show you the mechanics of it, how to set it all up, and just the important things that you need to know so that you can actually make this work for your own clothing brand, okay? So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is find an audio track that you can put to your Instagram story that you're gonna create. And obviously every single clothing brand here is gonna be different in terms of which track you decide to use for your Instagram story, but you're gonna wanna find a music track that you can put underneath your story. Now, I wanna show you how we go about finding free music that, you know, is royalty free so that, you know, we don't end up getting sued or fined or anything like that. And you can do this too for your own clothing brand, okay? So hop on over to YouTube. And on YouTube, just search free beat, okay? There's a lot of people who just create free music that they just allow, you know, people to use their instrumentals for free. And if you just search free beat, you can see at the top we put free hick hop beat. Hick hop is basically like, you know, hick music with like some beats to it. And that's exactly like the perfect music for our brand. And you can search whatever it is that you want, but you can see in the title it's free to use for anybody. And so you can basically just copy the URL at the top and then open up another tab, and on Google, search YouTube to MP3. At the top, you'll find a YouTube to MP3 converter. I want you to click on that link. It will bring you to a website where you can literally just paste the YouTube link in and download this YouTube link into MP3 format. So now you actually have the file and you can work with it and bring it into your video editing software. So that's exactly what I've done here. I've just got the file in here in my video editing software. And what's key to mention here is that you want to find only 15 seconds of this song because Instagram stories have a maximum time length of 15 seconds, okay? So chunk out the sickest 15 seconds possible of this song that you've just downloaded and then drop it into your timeline, okay? So you should just have the audio file in your timeline with, you know, 15 seconds of audio. Now, one thing that you'll notice here is that the dimensions of the screen there that you're looking at on the right is the exact same dimensions as a smartphone screen, okay? It's the exact same dimensions as an Instagram story. And I want to show you exactly what these dimensions are so that you can adjust it inside of your own video editor so that when you actually export this file, it's the exact dimensions for Instagram stories. All right, so in Adobe Premiere, which is the software that I'm using here, the way to adjust these dimensions is to go to Sequence at the top, then Sequence Settings, and inside Sequence Settings, all that you're adjusting is the frame size, okay? So I'm just gonna make the horizontal size 900, and I'm gonna make the vertical size 1600. Now, I know you're probably using a different video editing software or something else, so if you're struggling to find this, just hop on Google, type in your video editing software and look up how to adjust the dimensions or how to adjust the frame size, and you should be able to figure it out pretty easy. And I mean, even if you just spend some time clicking around, you should be able to find the frame size pretty easily in whichever video editing software you're using. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a background image to this Instagram story. And remember, my clothing brand represents rural Canada, so I want this background image to be rustic and have sort of like this really harsh texture to it. So I went on Google and I found a wood background that I'm going to use for my Instagram story. I just brought it into this video editing software, as you can see, and I'm just going to drop it right on top inside of the video section. Now you can see that when I added this wood background to the timeline, it doesn't fill the entire screen. There's the top and the bottom. There's like those little sections that aren't filled in. That's just because the image that I brought in isn't the same size as the dimensions for this story that we're creating. Okay, so all that I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on it. I'm going to go into effect controls, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm just going to blow it up a bit. You can figure this out fairly easily in whichever video editing software you're using. So just basically blow it up so that it actually fits as a full background. That's all that you're going to do when it comes to setting up the background. Now, the next thing that I want to show you here, you don't need to do, but it will really help add, that extra effect to your Instagram story. Okay, so on the left there, you can see that I have that smoke image that I'm going to bring in to the timeline. Now, all that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a moving smoke effect over top of this background image. And the way that you do this is you just go on Google and you search smoke transparent PNG or smoke overlay effect. And all you're going to do is just save one of those images as a PNG file, because that way it's saved with a transparent background. So you can literally just drop this image right on top of the background that you currently have inside of your Instagram story, and it'll create this really cool effect where you can kind of see right through it, and it will create a real smoke effect. Now you can see that I've added this smoke effect to the timeline, and it's on the track right above the background image of the wood that I have. And when I dropped in this smoke effect, it doesn't fill in the whole screen, just like how the wood background didn't fill in the whole screen. So I'm just going to double click on that smoke effect, and I'm going to readjust the size, expand it so that it fills in the entire screen. And then I'm just going to move the positioning of the smoke effect all the way to the left, so that when I start the movement and I start adding keyframes, which I'll show you in a second, the smoke effect starts on the left, and I'm just going to slowly move it so that it moves all the way to the right. So what I've done is I've slid the image all the way to the left so that it starts at the left. I'm going to add keyframes just by simply clicking on the position and the scale, and whichever video editing software you're using, I'm sure there's a way to add keyframes, so it can be just a really simple Google to figure out how to do this. And then once I've added those keyframes at the very beginning of this smoke effect, I'm going to slide my cursor all the way to the end, and I'm going to adjust the image so that it's now all the way on the right side, so that when I hit play, the smoke effect is just slowly moving from that far left side all the way to the far right side. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the opacity for this smoke effect, and I'm going to change it from 100, which is basically how transparent it is, and I'm going to bring it down to 65 so that it's really, really subtle and creates this real effect. I just want to stop here because I'm sure if you've never video edited before, you're probably fairly overwhelmed. And I want to let you know that, you don't necessarily need to add this smoke effect, and, spend some time just playing around with it. In your free time, just play around. You'll figure this stuff out. That's basically exactly how I figured out how to make these Instagram stories, was just from playing around with it. But I'm just basically showing you a roadmap for how you can actually do this for yourself. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do here is the exact same thing that I did with that smoke effect, but adding pictures for my own clothing brand. So I brought in 7 different pictures that I have for my clothing brand, and I'm sure you have clothing brand pictures too that you can add to your Instagram story. And all that I'm going to be doing is adding these 7 pictures in and creating a little bit of movement on the pictures and just adding a little bit of transparency to them so that, the wood background shines through and it creates this cool effect with the smoke effect on top. And it just creates, a really, really cool looking effect. So bring your first picture into the timeline, and you should have 3 different video tracks now. You should have one with the background that should be on video track 1, the first one. Then the second track is where I want you to put the picture that your clothing brand has, and then the third track on top should be the smoke effect that's on top of that picture. I'm going to make the length of these pictures 2 seconds for each of them because we only have 15 seconds for this Instagram story. So I'm basically just going to be cycling through, these 7 different pictures, and it'll create this cool little montage. Now, once you've done all that and you've got the smoke effect on track 3, you've got your picture on track 2, and you've got the background image on track 1, I want you to go into the effects for the picture that we've just added, and we're going to add a little bit of movement to this picture. So all you have to do to add movement to this picture is place the picture how you want it to start and add those first 2 keyframes because that'll hold that in place from the very beginning. Then go all the way to the end of this image, which should only be 2 seconds long, and move the image how you want it to end, okay? And then just add the last 2 keyframes, and when you play it back, it should have this nice, smooth movement to it. Then all that I'm doing is I'm just putting 75% transparency so that it's a little bit see-through and it gives it this cool effect, and that's basically it. We're basically going to be replicating exactly what I just did 6 more times. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the next image that I want to add. I'm going to drag it into the timeline right beside the other picture on the second track, and I'm going to make it the exact same amount of time, 2 seconds. All right. Then I'm going to go into the effect controls of the new picture. I'm going to expand the image to the size that I want it. I'm going to choose exactly where I want this picture to begin, and I'm going to add my keyframes. Then I'm going to slide my cursor to the end of this image, which is 2 seconds long. I'm going to pick where I want this image to end. I'm going to add another 2 keyframes, and that's basically it. Then I'm going to change the transparency to 75 again. And you can see that when I play it back, it's got this cool little movement to it with the effect right on top, and you obviously can't hear it, but it's also got the music under it, and it just looks really, really sick. All right, so we need to do this 4 more times in order to actually fill out the Instagram story, and I want to show you one more time just how you can add this picture to the story and create this movement, and then I want to show you how you can actually add text over top of it so that, anytime you have a promo going on, you can include text that says, free shipping promo code or, 25% off everything right now. And it should really help you out in terms of your branding and actually your ability to make sales. So I'm just going to add another picture here to the timeline. I'm going to make it 2 seconds long. I'm going to place it beside the other pictures, and I'm going to open up the effects for this picture. I'm going to change the size of the image by going to scale and scaling it to different sizes until I find the one that fits. And then I'm going to position it at the very beginning where I want it to start. I'm going to add the 2 keyframes, and then I'm going to slide the cursor all the way to the end of this picture, which is 2 seconds long, and I'm going to add the end keyframes. Okay, I'm going to readjust the picture and add the end keyframes so that when I hit play, everything moves nice and slowly from the beginning keyframes to the end keyframes. Now I'm just going to adjust the transparency here to 75, and that's all you need to do. All right, so when we're looking at your timeline, you should have the audio track there, which is 15 seconds long. Then on your first video track, you should have your background image, 3 of the pictures that we've just added on the second video track, and then on the third video track, you should have the smoke effect. All right, now what I want to show you how to do now is how to add text on top of these images, okay, and how I go about actually adding text. So if you want to add that free promo code, or if you want to add, 25% off everything, you can do that. So the first thing that we're going to do here is hop over to Photoshop. Now you can do this in whichever photo editing software you have. You can even do this in Paint if that's what you're using. And all that you're going to do is create a template or create a project that has the dimensions that are the exact same. So the dimensions are 900 for width, 1600 for height, and then create that project. All right, so then inside of this project here, you're basically just going to use the text tool and type in whatever it is that you want to type. I'm just going to put free shipping promo code, and then I'm basically just going to center this in the middle of this image, and I'm going to delete the background so that it's completely transparent. Then, in whichever photo editing software you have, you can add a drop shadow or an outline to these words. So I'm basically just adding a drop shadow to this text, and that's literally it. Just save this image as a PNG file and then drop it back into your video editor. And you can see that when I drop this text on the 4th video track in my timeline, that it looks really, really cool right on top of the images that I'm showing. And this is just a really good way to actually create an Instagram story that's custom like this, that actually has a purpose to it, that will actually create a call to action for all of your followers. All right, then all that I'm going to do here is just add the rest of the images just to fill out the timeline here, just like the first 3 that I did. And I don't necessarily need to show you how to do this because I'm doing the exact same thing that I did for the first 3. So that's basically the hardest part about creating these Instagram stories, is just understanding how to use keyframes. Okay, now depending on which video editing software you're using, you know, this could take, you know, 20 to 30 minutes to figure out, just from Googling around, just to figure out, you know, where the keyframes are and how to actually add effects inside of whichever video editing software you're using. But once you figure it out, you know, you can really play around and, you know, add movement to the text or add movement to whatever it is that you want to add. The crucial thing here that I really wanted to show you is just the dimensions that you need to have in order to actually create an Instagram story, so that when you export it, you send it to your phone, it fits your Instagram story perfect, and you're just blown away by how it looks. I mean, I've watched some of these over and over again just because I'm like, oh my God, it looks so good. And it's really, really sick. So once you've added all the images and your project is done and you're happy with it, all you have to do is just export that video and send it to your phone, and you've got a really, really sick Instagram story for you to post for your clothing brand. Okay, now these Instagram stories, we get a lot of compliments on them, and people absolutely love them because it really just shows that we take the time, we're professional, we've got a cool brand, and it really just spices up your Instagram account like crazy.